In the world of birding, there is no achievement greater than a big year. A big year is a competition to see or hear as many bird species as possible in a single calendar year. In 2021, birder Tiffany Kersten broke the big year record for the lower 48 states. We had the chance to talk with Tiffany about what it was like to compete in a big year and to learn more about her amazing story.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. We're here with Tiffany Kersten, and she broke the lower 48 big year record with 726 birds. That's incredible to me just to hear that number. So congratulations on the big success. Do you want to give us a little bit of background about how you got into doing a big year and how this all came about?
Yeah, sure. The background is there is no background. It all kind of happened on accident. So I actually lost my job in November of 2020. And I live here in South Texas, in Mission, Texas, in the Lower Rio Grande Valley. And I bought a house here actually earlier in 2020. And so I was finding myself a new homeowner with no job in an area where, ecotourism is big, but I had been managing a nature center. It's like the possibility of finding another job like that felt pretty slim. So yeah, I was just kind of trying to piece together what was next for me, obviously in the middle of COVID here, which presented even more of a challenge in finding a new job and whatnot. So I did what I knew best, which I've done on the side for about 10 years or so, was start showing people birds for money so that I could pay my mortgage. So that picked up a lot. And a couple of the other local guides who are kind of heading into retirement and sort of phasing out knew that I needed the money, and they really didn't. So they started sending me a lot of their clients too that were contacting them. And I ended up guiding a big year birder actually mid-January. His name is Charlie Bostwick. He did an ABA big year. He placed, I believe, 5th in the end for ABA. So I guided him mid-January. We got him all the valley specialties and all the really great rarities that we had around last winter. Not knowing that I was doing a big year. And I had gone actually the first week and a half of January to Florida with a friend who had never birded in Florida before. So we ran around the whole state and got him all of the Florida specialties and whatnot. I had come back from that trip, I realized later, with exactly 200 species. And then guiding Charlie. And so Charlie was the one who was like, well, you're in the middle of things right now. Why don't you just do a big year? Like everyone just drop everything and do a big year.
I feel like that's such an easy thing to tell your friends, like, hey, just do a big year.
And then she did, which is the best part.
Yeah.
So like at that point, were you just like, yeah, I guess you're right. Absolutely, I'm going to do a big year.
No, actually I wasn't. I was like, no, you're crazy. He's in a financially stable position and has his own really established company and whatnot in Atlanta. So I was like, that's crazy. I have a house, I have a dog. I need to figure out how I'm going to pay my mortgage, and I need to be focused on getting a job right now. So a couple more weeks went by, and I continued to guide a bunch of clients, and I was applying for tons of jobs and interviewing for lots of jobs around the state of Texas and around the country. I had no idea where it was going to end up next. And continue to add birds to my year list, kind of unknowingly, unintentionally, and had a week with no clients, and was feeling really, really stressed about what I was going to do about work and with my life, and just really not in a very good headspace. So I took a road trip. There were 5 life birds that I needed in Arizona. I had no clients for a week. So left my dog with a temporary roommate that I had gotten, which helped me cut expenses here at home, and planned to circumnavigate the state of Arizona. I needed violet crowned hummingbird. There was rufous backed robin there. I needed Williamson's sapsucker and a couple of others. So I left and I spent a night in hill country camping, super, super low cost trip. I have a little Chevy Spark that takes almost no gas. I was camping, had like condensed soup over my camp stove. Spent a night in Central Texas and then a night in West Texas. And then I was leaving the following morning to go to Arizona, and I flushed some scaled quail with my car on the way out of the campground, the state park, Franklin Mountain State Park. And I don't know. I was paying attention at this point to what number I was at, because a lot of friends were reaching out to me, and people that didn't even really know me are like, are you doing a big year? I was like, no, I'm doing a big year. I just happened to have seen a lot of birds. in the first 6 weeks. So yeah, I flushed the scaled quail, and I don't know, something clicked, something happened, and I got on my social media right then and there as I was driving out of the park, and I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm probably going to get a job at some point, but like for now, I'm going to go to Arizona and see how many species I can see.
So that was the moment. The scaled quail is what set it all off.
I'm picturing like the quail is being flushed with the car and she just lays eyes on it. And that's like the moment you knew, like the moment when you fall in love with someone from across the room, except it was the scaled quail and you're like, big year.
So I was heading to Portal, Arizona to meet a friend that afternoon. He was going to help me get sagebrush sparrow. And I said, I texted him, I said, change of plans. I need to like go see everything. And he's like, oh, we need to get you Mexican chickadee. And so suddenly, most people that do big years on this scale are planning it out for months, if not at least like a year in advance. And here I was like, I have no plan. So I just drove, for half of the day and got to him and started thinking about what I needed. There was an American Dipper, actually. I saw American Dipper that afternoon in the Chiricahuas in Arizona, which does not belong there. It's the first record, might be first record for Arizona, actually. But yeah, so that was kind of also my aha moment, is watching kind of the Dipper bounce around and feed underwater in this freezing cold creek, and it looks like it's having fun. And so I had actually posted on my social media, and I said, I posted not just in my stories but on my Facebook, and I said, this American Dipper seems happy, seems to be making the best of his situation. He's got to go underneath this really cold water and feed, and I don't know whether he's actually happy to do it or just trying to make the best of it. And I said, that's me right now. I'm trying to make the best of my situation. I'm unemployed. I'm in a stressful point in my life. But until duty calls, until really I need to take the responsibility, I'm going to just go and see as many species as I can.
That's awesome. So I see a lot of memes of people saying like, they're kind of saying they bird to like avoid their other responsibilities and if they feel stressed out. And it totally worked out for you with being a guide now and, getting all the press and breaking the record. So do you think there's something to birding to like de-stress and get just kind of like not avoid your responsibilities, but like get your mind off things?
I do, and the take home message, kind of fast forwarding to the end of the year, the take home message really that I got is, I was trying to get a job, and at the end I didn't get a job. At some point during the year, I figured, well, if I get a traditional job now, I'm going to have to kind of throw away all this work that I did on my big year. But it also pushed me towards starting my own company. So I have my own bird guiding company now, and I'm a full-time bird guide. And just following your passion, and that sometimes the universe kind of just pushes you towards where you're meant to be. And I kept trying to, I want to get a job with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and I want to be a park superintendent. I wanted this and I wanted that. And, and I'm skilled and qualified, and I believe all those things, but I also believe there's a reason that I didn't get one of those jobs. Yeah.
Speaking with, about your guide service, it's called Nature Ninja Birding Tours, correct?
Yes.
So are you looking for more clients to take on? Can people reach out to you if they're interested in birding the Rio Grande Valley?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm booked up for most of the spring at this point. I've got a few spring dates available, but I'm also starting to book for fall already.
Awesome. Well, we'll put a link to your info so people can get in touch with you if they want to bird that area. It's a gorgeous area, the valley, and you guys have tons of rare birds right now.
So at what point did you kind of hit your groove with the best way to do it? Because there's so much ground to cover, even if it's lower 48, not ABA. Like, how do you decide which things to go for, which things you need now, which things you can get later?
Yeah. So if I had to go back and was planning on it, I probably would have a different answer for you. But for me personally, it was like I was driving to Arizona. So once I drove to Arizona, I spent, a handful of days, 4 or 5 days in Arizona. And then I had to think, because if I'm doing this, it's going to be a budget year. And if I'm going to California, do I go to California now? I'm already more than halfway there from South Texas. Or do I go home? And then drive all the way back to California once I've planned this out? It's like, I would need more than a week to just sit and plan the whole thing. So I ended up actually going to California, going to San Diego, all the way up to San Francisco, and then back down to San Diego, and then flying to Sac-Simbog in Minnesota, meeting some friends there. and then flying back to San Diego and then driving home. And so I was gone for like 3 weeks. Told my roommate, I'm sorry. Thank you for watching my dog. So that was the first bit. And I came back through by way of Albuquerque, New Mexico to get the rosy finches. All of that was piecing it together. And I was in California. I think I was up probably in San Francisco, and I decided I was going to end up flying to Sax-Zim Bog to Minnesota amidst that, because I also had to think, like, at some point I was planning on some point I was going to have to quit this. So I was like, well, how much do I really want to be investing in this financially, given that I don't have a job, I had limited savings and whatnot, if at some point I'm gonna have to give it up anyway. So it's like, do I just forget about the boreal species, or do I go? And in hindsight, thank goodness I went, because cleaning up a lot of the birds that I would have been at in January. Most big year birders, most ABA and lower 48 big year birders start in New England in January. And I didn't do that. So like thick-billed murre was one of my biggest misses for the year, because they're just not in as thick in December as they are in January and February.
See, like, that's great insight. Like, I didn't know that most started in that area. What was your most memorable? Well, I mean, the scaled quail obviously was a big one, but like, do you have a most memorable one? Was it the one that broke the record, or was there a different one?
Or was it the small-billed Alania?
There were so many good like memories. I was actually guiding here, I think it was March. I was guiding here in the Rio Grande Valley, a family, beginning birders, husband and wife and 2 kids. They were maybe 10 and 12 years old. And we were at a place called Estero State Park, which is one of the absolute hot spots down here in the Rio Grande Valley. And we were standing at a feeding station, and some other birders were there, and they looked at me and they said, this couple said they had a yellow-faced grass quit here about 10 minutes ago. And I was there were too many people around. I was like, do we really believe this? But there were too many people around for me to be like, what, really? So I just kind of stood there, and we're like, oh. And then later on, I was talking with some other people. I'm like, yeah, I think this is a legit thing. But my family that I was guiding, beginners, I said, well, this is the deal. This is how rare this bird is. They show up in Hawaii occasionally, but for Texas, it's a really, really good bird. They had a family powwow for about 5 minutes and decided that they wanted to continue on. I said, we can stay here, we continue on. And they decided they wanted to continue on. So we started walking away, and we made it maybe 50 yards, and we were within earshot still. So I was like, there it is. And we raced back, and we saw it for like 7 or 8 seconds, and then it disappeared and was never seen again. So that was just like a lucky, like, just you had to have been there kind of a moment. So that was really cool.
That's awesome when that happens, especially when it's something on that scale where you're kind of already there, and then it's just like something else gets added. But going back to how we actually met, is we have some mutual friends who you guided, Chris and Colette. And then when my friends and I went down for the small-billed Alania, you were there with Chris and Colette. And I think you actually stayed at their house, I believe they said.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a goofy situation too, because it was right in this thicket by a fence. And I remember everyone was standing back because no one wanted to be, that birder that goes in there and like flushes it or obscures someone's view. But everyone was just standing around. And then I think you came up to like my friend Rob and I, and you're like, hey, I think we need to get in closer. And then that's how everyone got to see it, was because of that. Were there any really eclectic ones where it was just like way out of place or something like that? I mean, that was like in an industrial area that we found that Alania.
That Alania, I think, is probably the most out of place bird that I've seen all year. Yeah. Some other really skulky birds, the Dusky Warbler in California was like in this little kind of alleyway, but it was next to a kind of a marshy scrub kind of habitat. So it still sort of belonged, even though it was like really adjacent to people's houses. That Alania was something else, and seeing like getting there and parking and seeing like the 4 trees basically that it's been spending all its time in, I was like, oh man. And then I went back through and like looked at the reports from the previous days, and they're like, yeah, you have to like look through the fence, like physically walk up to the fence. But the bird is so rare that, right, you don't want to be that birder that scares it away, or that birder that's seen as acting unethically.
Yeah, there was a bit of buzz about you already, because I think Chris and Colette were like, yeah, she's doing a big year. She came all the way from Texas to see this Alania. Basically, you were somewhat responsible for most of the people getting to see the bird there. So thanks for that.
So do you have a least favorite sighting or experience from your trip? I mean, it's always cool to see any kind of bird, but is there one where you're just like, I didn't really feel like getting that one, or it was an odd situation or anything?
The Thrasher spot in Buckeye, Arizona, west of Phoenix, is just a disgusting place, and it's an intersection on the corner of the road. I actually know someone that went there like a day after I did and got her car all broken into and whatnot. So I don't know. That place gives me creeps, and I really don't like it. I had to go back twice for LeConte's Thrasher because I missed it the first time. I missed it in February, missed it in February, and then I went back in, I think it was May, and got it the second time. But I was like, oh man, I do not want to go back to this place.
I was surprised how quickly you came up with that answer. I thought that was going to take a little bit of thinking, but that was
it must be really sketchy.
So then there's experiences too, not so much places. Like I spent almost 2 whole days in Scarborough Marsh in Maine looking for little egret and just not finding a little egret. So it's not that location was horrendous or anything, but it was like, this bird just isn't cooperating. And then actually I found half a little egret.
Oh no.
It had 2 perfect white plumes on top of the head, and it just kind of came walking out of the salt marsh. And then it came around from behind, the bulky part of the salt marsh, and then you could see that his whole body was all splotchy. I think they decided it was a tricolored hybrid with a little egret.
Oh man, that's brutal.
I thought you meant like half, like it was like a carcass or something. I was envisioning something. I was like, that's dark.
You look around and you're like, can I count this? Will anybody know?
So like through the whole year, did you ever get sick of it? Did you ever not feel like going out? Be like, I gotta go look for this bird because I'm in too deep now.
Yeah. So the first bird that I chased by plane was Western Spindalis in April in Florida. And I flew there and rented a car and spent a night in a hotel, which I shouldn't have because I was really only had like 5 hours to sleep in the hotel, and it was the disgusting hotel at that. The rental car was $220 and my flight was over $600. And that bird cost me like $950, and I got huge sticker shock, and it was super stressful because I had to get in one evening. A lot of the flying to see birds is just logistically, you often can't get to the bird until the next day. Like if I leave before the bird is reported on that current day, I won't get there until after sunset usually. So it's like the stress of traveling and everything, and then just like the anxiety of like hoping the bird is going to be there on the other end, which you don't know, right? So I chased that bird in April and got huge sticker shock, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I am not in a financial situation to be chasing individual birds. And then I got to 700 on October 2nd, and that was the point where I calculated out kind of the things that I would planned on missing. Kind of going back to the question you asked earlier about like things that I plan to leave out. Like Smith's longspur is a bird that's seen where really there's no other target species. So it was things like Smith's longspur that I was like, I'm gonna just do without that one, and I'll do without this one. So I went through when I hit 700 and counted up like all those possibilities that I had left if I'd go and clean up these things. And I realized the record was not super likely, but it was within reach. And that's when I started chasing birds by plane. So, and that's when it started getting much less fun. Like January to October was fun. And then November and December, quite honestly, were pretty miserable. And I was just always exhausted and always stressed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Derek.
I give you a ton of credit for like, grinding it out the whole year. Cause sometimes Ryan and I'll be going through and it hits like summer and it's hot out. Things are difficult. And just that like will to go out and look for stuff isn't always there. So like to stick with it the whole year and break the record, I think is awesome.
So I started following kind of your social media stuff probably it was definitely after the Alenia, but I noticed that it's basically every other day it was, oh, now I'm headed here, now I'm headed there, now I'm headed to this place. It looked like it was extremely hectic for you to do that. But as it kind of got down, how much did the excitement build for you as it got down to the wire where it was like, well, now I'm 5 species away, now I'm 4 species away, now I'm 3? Because I know there was a ton of people that were following you the whole time and really were excited for you to get that record.
Yeah, I was excited that everyone else was excited. Honestly, at that point, I think I'd reached a point in exhaustion where I almost lacked the ability to be excited anymore. Which I know is really awful and sad to say, and very fortunate to have been able to make this work and to go all year long. And I have a partnership with the personal safety alarm company that I was working with, and I did a lot of extra work with Swarovski. I'm a field tech with them, so they sent me to strategic places. I co-led the Bicknell's Thrush trip on the top of a mountain in Maine. So, things like that really helped me make it to the end of the year, which I just really had never thought was going to be anywhere near an option. So I would love to say that I got more and more excited, but I just really as I should have been getting more excited, the exhaustion set in even higher. And so it was like parallel, like excitement and exhaustion kind of canceling each other out.
So what did it feel like when you got the Bat Falcon that officially broke the record? Did the emotions come back then?
Yes. Yeah. So to have a record breaking bird. So I can go back. I was in Oklahoma looking at Smith Longspurs with some people that I'd met on Facebook that had picked me up, and I had stayed with them at their house, which was another money-saving technique that I'd had, was connecting with birders, and especially women birders around the country over the course of the year. So I was with them, and we were literally in the field looking at Smith's Longspurs, and I was trying to photo document it. I sold my camera a few years ago, so all the photos and videos that I took during my big year were either digiscoped or digibinned through my binoculars or my spotting scope. So I was trying to use my spotting scope to get a digibinned video or photo of these longspurs, and they were just not cooperating. They're like little mice. They just run along the ground. And my phone dinged, and the text came through that the Bat Falcon down here was re-seen. And so I looked at the pretty much strangers, right, that were there with me, and I was like, I need to go. Like, I don't know which direction I need to go, because I was halfway between the Tulsa and the Stillwater airports. So I was like, and they had already offered to take me to either. And I actually had a flight out, I'm forgetting where, but I had flights actually booked out of both Tulsa and Stillwater for other places. Because with COVID, you can just cancel your flight. So I would do that a lot throughout the course of the year. I would book like 3 flights all on the same day to different places for like 3 days out, and then watch and see what the birds did. And whatever bird seemed most reliable, I'd cancel the other 2 flights and take the third one. So I ended up booking, we got back in the car. I warmed up my hands enough to use them because it was like 20 degrees out. And I booked a flight back out of Tulsa here to McAllen, home, my home county, and flew in, raced over to Santa Ana, ran into the refuge from the parking lot up the tower, wearing like winter clothes. I had a turtleneck sweater and leggings underneath my jeans, and wool socks and non-breathable. It was miserable. I was so hot once I got there, but I ran to the top of the tower and I stuck my eyeball in someone's scope and checked it off. And it was really cool because not only was it a really awesome place in my home county, a really awesome first ABA record bird, but I used to work at Santa Ana. That was my first job here in the Rio Grande Valley. I was working there, and I'm currently on their Friends board. And I actually went to Washington, D.C. about 4 years ago to talk about the ramifications that a border wall would have in a national wildlife refuge. And so myself, as well as hundreds of other people, worked to save Santa Ana from getting a border wall. So saw the bird, and a whole bunch of my friends were already at the bird, and then I had to excuse myself down a trail for a little bit and cry. It was really awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's a picturesque story. That's like a fairy tale ending. You get to go back to your home county. That's awesome.
And then I believe was there one more bird after that you also picked up?
There was one more bird that I got. There were 3 more birds that I went for. And going back to flying and being stressed about flying for birds, I actually, up until after I broke the record, I never missed a bird by plane, which is pretty incredible. After that, I flew to New Jersey for northern lapwing and got northern lapwing. And then I flew to California to try for common crane, and I dipped on common crane. And then ended up flying back home. And then I was scheduled for a pelagic out of Cape Hatteras in hopes of great skua. on December 29th. And there were other rare birds that were being seen at this time, but I was planning, I needed to map out to be able to get there a day early to be ready for the pelagic. Well, the pelagic that was scheduled for the 29th got rescheduled for the 30th because of weather, and then got rescheduled again for the 31st. So that kind of like ate up the rest of the time for the year. But and then got on the boat and missed Great Skua, and I was so tired. There were hardly any birds on that boat. And halfway through the boat trip, I was kind of like, I don't even, if they just took us back to land right now, I'm good with like not even getting Great Skua, even with all the effort and work I took to like get myself out to North Carolina. I was just that level of done.
So what did it feel like on the first of the year then, having completed all this? Was it just like, just exhaustion or peace, or did you kind of miss it? What was the feeling?
I wondered if I would miss it, especially because I was subscribed to the hourly AVA rarity alerts, which I was subscribed to from like April through the end of the year. So every hour I was checking my phone, constantly linked in to like the AVA rarities Facebook page. And it was at the point, all of December, pretty much anytime a rare bird showed up, I got like 20 messages from like everyone around the country, which was cool and appreciated, right? But it was also like, thank you, I got it, I got it. So it was like a lot of sensory overload for I think a very long period of time, and I wondered what it was going to feel like to not have that anymore. And I actually was like, well, I'm going to need some kind of birding purpose after this, right? So I signed up for the daily needs alert for my home county here, Hidalgo County. And I actually just like a week ago unsubscribed from that because I was starting to get, I think I need Western Meadowlark or something for the county. And there was one like, it was like 20 minutes away, and I was like, nah, I think I'm good. So I guess maybe I'm not going to be a county lister.
That's funny. Like you tackle one of the biggest listing achievements, and then the county, you're just like,
yeah. See, I've never been a lister, and I've never wanted to do a big, even like I said, I never planned to do a big year, but I've never been like, I hope someday I'm in a position where I can do a big year of any kind. So I still don't consider myself a lister. I think I'm a collector of experiences.
Ooh, that's a good way to spin it, I think.
So do you have any advice for people who want to do a big year?
Yeah, plan ahead.
Okay. So you wouldn't recommend the spur of the moment approach?
Plan ahead, and mostly plan ahead. Be really well networked with people. I've had a lot of people reaching out to me, kind of asking me how I did it. And I was piecing things together. As I mentioned, I got a roommate here in terms of finances. I had a roommate here that helped me, split my mortgage payment, and working for Swarovski helped, the bird guiding and all the spare time helped. Even in November and December, I was taking clients on like a contingency basis. So I would guide them if I was here. And I said, like, my big year is coming first, but if I'm here, I'll guide you. And so I did some of that. And then I started a GoFundMe with the personal safety alarm company. So
do you want to elaborate a little more on the personal safety stuff?
Yeah. So going back to that moment with the scaled quail, right? It was February 10th when I committed to doing my big year. A few days after that, some pretty highly publicized sexual assault allegations came out against a birder in Georgia. And that really shook me because I'm a survivor myself. And I was like, I just committed to traveling the whole country by myself most of the time. Am I making a good decision for myself with this? And then a couple of days after that, just completely serendipitously, this personal safety alarm company called Birdie, but with no affiliation with bird watching whatsoever, showed up in my social media. And so I reached out to them. I had a friend who was interested in kind of helping me start my project and purchased the first 100 alarms for me at a discounted price from the company. And I started a GoFundMe where for every $50 raised, $35 would go towards my travel and $15 would go towards a half-priced alarm that I would buy from the company and then gift to a woman that I met on my travels. Over the course of the year, my partnership with the company grew and they ended up matching my donations. So all the money was going towards my travel, and they were giving me the alarms to give to other people, which helped me out greatly financially in terms of being able to complete my big year. And I still have that GoFundMe open, actually, and it's under a different format now. For every $10 donated, all the money goes directly towards purchasing alarms, and I'm continuing to gift them to women birders that I meet in the field this year.
Awesome. Can we include a link to that as well on the video?
Certainly.
Awesome. So one of the other things I noticed when I was doing some research was that prior to doing your big year, you were training for American Ninja Warrior. And I'm a big American Ninja Warrior rock climber fan. Do you still are you still planning on competing at some point?
Oh, it's hard to say for sure. COVID hit, and that's what kind of shut that down. And actually, so that's where my company name came from. If folks haven't connected those dots yet, I started training, and I started posting videos of myself training, and my friends dubbed me the nature ninja, because everyone on that show kind of has a theme based on the other parts of their life. And I was managing a nature center at the time. So they said, oh, you're the nature ninja. So then when I started my company, I was like, nature ninja still kind of fits. Like, show people birds that other people can't see or whatnot. So I don't know at this point. It's been 2 years since I've been training. I'm 35, which is slightly ancient for the sport. Most people who do well
the sport of birding or the American Ninja Warrior?
American Ninja Warrior, not for birding. Birding is for everyone. But yeah, an American Ninja Warrior. So it's really just joint heavy. It's a lot of upper body. It's a lot of like throwing your body through space, using your arms and your shoulders. So maybe, who knows? I still have my gym memberships paused with COVID, but hoping to go back soon.
Awesome.
So how has your life changed since finishing your big year?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for all the fame almost that comes with it. People, I was out with a few clients today, and like 3 different groups of people in the field recognized me. They're like, oh, we know who you are. I'm like, I don't know who you are. It feels nice to be, I will say, it feels nice to be recognized or noticed as a woman birder. There's so many times, I've been birding since I was 12, so for 23 years now. And there's so many times I'll be out birding with a man or a group of men, and I'm just seen as invisible by other groups, and sometimes seen as invisible by some of the men that I'm birding with, in terms of other people walking up and, asking for information or something. It's particularly funny when, I shouldn't say funny, it's not funny, but it's particularly ironic when I have like a male client and someone walks up to us and starts asking my client, for information on this bird or whatever. And I'm like, I'm happy to give you that information, but I am here too. And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of women watching this. So that's nice, to feel seen. And that's something that we need to be working on, both men and women. Women in standing our ground, I guess, if you will, and having the confidence, to speak about a bird ID or, something in the field, and men to make sure that they're making space for women to be heard and not acting out of sexism, which, it's rampant, and not just birding, in a lot of other areas in life too.
Do you ever just not give people info if they would come up and talk to like a male client of yours, where you're just like, well, I did know where that was, but it's too bad?
There are a couple of times where people have just been such jerks. I'm like, nah, yeah, not worth the words. But for the most part, I love to give out any information that I have on birds.
Well, hopefully they like went home and looked on the computer and they're like, Tiffany, big year. And they're just like, oh no.
Maybe they will now. But that is one of my big hopes, actually, going back to not ever having really wanted to do a big year. And so my drive, I think, I guess my drive had to be high to break the record. But, a lot of my reasoning behind it was to show other women that there's space for us. Because in the introductory and like intermediate birding realm, it's more than 50% women. But then if you get up into competitive birding, if you get up into, female bird guides, like the national tour companies, it's something like 5% women bird guides. And so just to set an example for other women, that there's space for us here in competitive birding, if that's something, that they're interested in, and there's space for us to be bird guides too.
Do you think there are some kinds of barriers that are kind of there from that intermediate to that like advanced level? Because like you were saying, I noticed like on eBird, just when I look at like our area, it seems like it's like 50-50 in terms of gender, basically.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, I spent 3 years living in Cape May, New Jersey, which is a huge birding mecca, and lots of like really high caliber birders around me at all times. And, learning from them. And I feel thankful that I was in a space there that for the most part felt, I don't know if emotionally safe is quite the right word, but I felt safe to confidently mis-ID birds. Because part of growth and part of learning, right, is if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. And so to be able to be like, blah, like, this bird, and it's, it's something else, which I still do as a guide, we all do that, but you have to feel comfortable doing that in front of the group you're with, for them to not ridicule and be like, oh man, I can't believe she thought it was that. And there's a lot, I felt a lot within other groups that I've birded, a lot of judgment where I feel like I have to be quiet, and I feel like I can't be a fully participatory part of the group. And so for women to feel comfortable in the environment they're in, whether that's kind of emotionally comfortable with the company that they're in, or like physically comfortable and safe in the location that they're in, I think there's definitely some challenges for us there in both of those arenas that men don't have to deal with.
Do you have any advice for young birders out there? Just, how they can improve, or what maybe they should be working on, or like if they can focus on one thing, what would it be?
Have a mentor. Have a mentor for sure. And learn the ropes. And there's a lot to be learned from spending time in the field by yourself. But if you can, I don't want to call it a shortcut, but it's like a fast track. If you can kind of fast track learning some of that information, and not just some of the like ID information, but also etiquette, like birding etiquette. Mm-hmm. So I've been seeing a lot of, I call them COVID birders. People that, everything else shut down in COVID, and they're like, I guess I'm going to go look at birds. And then they found that they liked looking at birds. But they haven't really had, because I think partially because of COVID, and there haven't been like these group walks and public walks and things like that. There's a lot of etiquette needing to be learned. So making sure, especially if you're a beginning birder, that you're reading like the ABA Code of Ethics, and really understanding when it's okay to use playback and not, and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think having that mentor is really huge. And I would definitely agree with you on that, because hanging out with just some of the people from like Audubon, Louisiana, or doing research with them, you learn so much, and like so much of the little things that they pick up on just with like shorebird ID, or just other little random tips that you kind of like hold with you forever.
Yeah, Tiffany, how did you first get started with birding too? Because you said that you were birding ever since you were, I think you said 13-ish. Like, what kind of sparked the interest for you?
Yeah. So back to my Wisconsin roots. So I grew up in Kaukauna near Appleton.
I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know you grew up in Wisconsin. Very cool.
And my mom and I took a class. I was 12 at Mosquito Hill Nature Center in New London. And it was like a 6 or 8 week class. And one of the field trips was to a field of like 2,000 sandhill cranes in the back of a cornfield in the springtime, all courting and displaying. And that there was that moment. I was like, oh, birds are cool. And yeah, so that was it.
That's incredible.
As a younger birder, did you experience a little bit of like people not thinking you knew your stuff right away too? Because we experienced that a little bit when we were first starting out, because I think we were a little older.
We also didn't exactly know what we were doing either, though.
Yeah, I mean, like Tiffany
You
said,
learn
you
as you
learn as you
go.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nobody knows, right, to begin with. And I was mostly a backyard birder pretty much until college. Yeah, high school, and then even more so in college. I got into it more. I went to Northland College up in Ashland, Wisconsin, and took ornithology there. And actually, so when I was 12, it was the days before the internet and things like that. So my mom and I had no idea where to go. This 6 or 8 week class ended, and then she was like, "I don't know where to take you birding," and I was like, "Well, I'm 12. I don't know where to go birding." And so I had the old Audubon guide that has the fake leather green cover. It's got the pictures on one half of the book and the plates are all in the back, which is super unfortunate. But I would just sit there and page through it. The following summer after that spring, I just page through when I was 12. So then I was 22 and I was taking field ornithology at Northland College. And I looked through the scope, and we were talking, the whole group was talking about field marks. So they're like, okay, look through the scope and tell us what you see. We're not gonna say bird names right now. And I looked through the scope and I looked back at the teacher and I said, that looks like a dowitcher. Having this is the very beginning of this class. I have no comprehension of how I had that in my head, except that I must have absorbed it when I was 12 and it was still there somewhere.
That's the field mark as dowitcher.
It looks dowagery. I don't know what else to say.
It has the dowager look to it.
Yeah.
You must have been right though. Yeah, it was a dowager.
I was right. Yeah, they were shocked, and I was right. And then I proceeded to spend, I think it was that following winter, 1 mile away from a deer falcon, and never went to see it.
Oh no.
What's some learning to do? I didn't comprehend exactly how rare, how special that bird was. So
yeah, we haven't even gotten those very much lately in Wisconsin. When we started, there was one, and then since then there really hasn't been any.
No.
I guess you'll have to come back up sometime and see if you can get it. Unless, did you get one this past year?
I've seen one in New York about a decade ago. I saw one in New York.
Oh, gotcha.
I didn't get it this year. So my biggest misses for the year were thick-billed murre, northern hawk owl, and deer falcon.
Gotcha. Yeah, those northern species got you a little bit, but
yep.
It apparently turned out okay. So how closely did your experience doing a big year match the movie The Big Year?
Well, there were multiples of us doing a big year, but we all got along very well for the most part and shared information. So that doesn't track. It was really, really fun actually to bird with the other big year birders. There was Charlie, and then there's a couple in Florida who were also doing basically, I guess, an ABA big year. And then there's a young man named Jason, who's a Washington State birder, who did, I guess, the contiguous ABA area. So it was really, really fun to kind of compare notes and share stories and cross paths with each of them the different times of the year. But the movie, so I watched the movie again at some point during the year, and I was like, yeah, my life is quite a bit like this.
And I hate to tell you, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I think since Charlie, you said, has a company, that would make him Stu. I think that makes you Jack Black.
Yep. So it's Bostic. Owen Wilson is Bostic in the movie, and Charlie's last name is Bostwick. So there was tons of confusion about that. Like, wait, like from the movie? It's like, close.
You're like, yes, he is the guy from the movie.
So do you guys all have like a secret club or like a group chat?
No.
Like big year birding. Like, do you guys have jackets or anything?
Oh man.
But it wasn't super competitive, or it was like, oh, he got that one, like I gotta go get that one.
Well, we were all working on different things, and I did have a concern that any one of the other birders might break my lower 48 record accidentally while trying to do the ABA record, and I was a little concerned, especially with Charlie, for that. He ended up with, I think, 718 for lower 48, and some of the birds that I had seen in the lower 48, he had seen in Alaska or Hawaii, like rose ring parakeet. So he didn't go for that. And I think spotted dove, he must have gotten, spotted dove. He probably got in Hawaii too. So didn't, I saw those in California, so that helped. But no, for the most part, it was really friendly, and everyone helping everyone out with information.
Would you ever just say like, hey, saw something you need showed up in Hawaii again. You better take the week over there and make sure you get it.
I did make a comment about that, about yellow-faced grass squid, actually, to Charlie at one point. Like, I've got yellow-faced grass squid here. You can't really get it anywhere else except for Hawaii without accidentally stumbling upon one like I did. One of the most powerful things that anyone said to me this year was actually from a very beginning birder who said, Tiffany, imagine if one of the characters in the Big Year movie had been a woman, and how much that would probably have impacted birding today.
Hopefully people on, social media seeing you will open doors for them to say, I want to do that. And you will probably, just knowing the little bit of you that I know, would probably be excited if someday, a girl that saw you on social media breaks your lower 48 record.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe you'll guide them.
Yeah, maybe you'll guide them. That would be cool.
Yep.
I think it's a great experience, and I've really enjoyed hearing from you. Rye, did you have any additional questions for Tiffany, or Tiffany, did you have anything that you would like to say to our viewers?
Good bird.
Good burden.
So I want to ask some quick like one answer questions.
Okay.
Okay, you ready for this? It's gonna be rapid fire.
Oh, okay, I'll try to be ready.
Favorite bird guide?
Whoa. So now you just opened a can of worms. because I've learned now that I'm a full-time bird guide, people post like on social media asking for bird guide recommendations all the time, and it's like paper or flesh.
Paper.
Sibley.
Okay. Favorite owl species?
Ooh. Boreal.
That's a good one. Favorite bird in general? I know that's a tough one.
Greyhawk.
Derek, do you have any?
Least favorite bird.
Ooh. House sparrow. Ooh, I really don't like common minus either. I don't like anything that doesn't belong. I added probably like 30 freaking introduced species to my life list this year that are AVA accountable. And I'm like, what is this about? I don't care about the parrots that are running around.
All right, so least favorite bird, all parrots.
All introduced species, anything where it doesn't belong, unless it's a vagrant.
Favorite bird call.
Favorite bird call?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Common loon.
Favorite mnemonic device for bird call?
Is it warbling vireo? If I see you, I will squeeze you, and I'll squeeze you till you squirt.
Yep, that's a good one. Favorite birding location?
Cape May.
Does the ivory-billed woodpecker still exist?
No. Sadly.
That's all I've got.
All right. Well,
that was a great way to cap it off.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tiffany. We will include the links to your guiding agency and the GoFundMe so people can check them out if they would like.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
To learn more about Tiffany as well as her guiding business and GoFundMe, check the links in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.